Rain lashed against the limousine's tinted windows as the Billionaire CEO, Daniel Thorne, scrolled through financial reports on his tablet, barely noticing the gray blur of New York City beyond the glass. His day had been consumed with meetings, negotiations, and a looming merger set to disrupt three industries. Success had been his constant companion, so much so that he'd forgotten the face of failure, or what it meant to need. Until the knock. The sharp rap on the glass came from a street corner near a bakery in Brooklyn. The limousine paused by a traffic light. At first, he ignored it. Another beggar. Another outstretched hand in a city full of them. But then came the words. "Hi, sir. My mother has a ring just like yours." Daniel glanced up, his eyes meeting those of a thin, rain-soaked girl of no more than 12. Her clothes were mismatched, her shoes more holes than fabric, but her gaze held something familiar, curiosity, honesty, a spark of defiance. He frowned. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice muffled behind the glass. He lowered the window. She repeated, "My mother has a ring just like yours." She pointed at the heavy signet ring on his finger, gold, etched with a crest no one but family should recognize. The Thorne crest. Daniel's heart stalled. That ring had been in his family for generations. Only a handful existed. Only blood relatives owned them. "What's your name?" he asked, leaning forward. "Lily," she said. "My mom's name is Sarah. We live just over there." She gestured toward the tenement buildings, her hand trembling in the cold. "Sarah?" Daniel's voice came out hoarse. He had known a Sarah once. 20 years ago. Before money, before power. She had disappeared from his life after college. Beautiful, fierce, and full of dreams he'd been too ambitious to share. "Tell your mother to come see me," he said, handing her a business card. "At this address. Tomorrow morning." She nodded and ran. The next day, in the towering glass lobby of Thorne Enterprises, Sarah appeared. She looked older, but her eyes hadn't changed. She wore a modest dress, hair tied back, the years evident in the lines around her mouth and the weariness in her posture. But what stunned Daniel wasn't her presence. It was the ring on her hand. "It can't be," he whispered. "That ring belonged to my brother, Thomas. He died 15 years ago." Sarah swallowed. "He didn't die? He left. He wanted to escape everything. The company, the expectations. We met in Boston. He never told me his real name until after Lily was born." Daniel's head swam. Thomas had always been the black sheep, more heart than ambition. Daniel had assumed the worst when his brother vanished. A plane crash in Nepal had been the convenient explanation. But it was all a lie. A choice. "He was sick," Sarah continued. "Pancreatic cancer. He passed when Lily was 4. And no one told me. He didn't want you to know. He thought it would complicate things. He wanted Lily to grow up normal." Daniel looked at her, then down at the girl standing beside her. Lily held his gaze steadily. "My niece," he murmured. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. Daniel visited their tiny apartment, met their neighbors, learned about their life. Lily's school was underfunded. Sarah worked 2 jobs. Their neighborhood was a haven of resilience, but starved of resources. He couldn't fix everything, but he could start. He enrolled Lily in one of the best private schools in the city. He offered Sarah a job, not out of pity, but because she had once studied journalism and still had a sharp mind. Her insights began shaping Thorne Enterprises' new initiative, community investment. Daniel changed too. He stopped seeing people as numbers on spreadsheets. He visited food banks, donated to schools, met single mothers and homeless veterans. The walls of his penthouse began to feel less like a fortress and more like a space he could invite others into. But not everyone welcomed the changes. His board resisted. Investors balked. "Philanthropy doesn't pay," one sneered. Daniel stood firm. "Humanity does." The backlash reached a peak when an expose hit the news, alleging that Thorne Enterprises was laundering money through its charity arm. The story was false, but damaging. Stocks plummeted. The merger was threatened. Daniel could weather the storm. But what broke him was Lily's face when she saw his photo on the news with the word corrupt splashed across it. "Is it true?" she asked. "No," he said, taking her hand. "But I understand why you'd ask. I wasn't always someone you could trust." She nodded solemnly. "But you are now." The emotional climax came at the shareholders' meeting. Cameras flashed. The world watched. "I built this company on profit," Daniel said, voice steady. "But I want to rebuild it on purpose. If that costs us the merger, so be it. I won't abandon the people who reminded me what life is really about. The silence was suffocating. Then a hand clapped. Then another. Applause erupted. The vote passed. The board was restructured. The charity arm was validated. Lily and Sarah watched from the front row, hands clasped. Months passed. The company stabilized. Lily thrived. Sarah's writing brought in grants for community centers. Daniel felt something he hadn't in years, peace. On Lily's 13th birthday, Daniel gave her a gift. Inside the velvet box wasn't jewelry or electronics. It was a journal. Your father kept one just like it, he said. Write your story. It deserves to be heard. She smiled. It started with a ring. He nodded. And it continues with you. The rain that day was gentle, cleansing. And for the first time in a long time, Daniel walked outside without an umbrella, letting it wash him clean. The first part of your 10,000-word story is ready and establishes a strong emotional foundation. Would you like me to continue with the next chapters and expand on Lily's journey, Daniel's transformation, and the broader impact of their choices?